We've known for the last 50 years that the American medical system is broke. People are sick, and they're getting sicker. What many of us don't realize is that this system of healthcare that we have was created almost solely by one man, John D. Rockefeller. And a lot of people don't realize that the way we feel and the health of America is the result of this one man's decision. We've gone so far away from being healthy that many of us have forgotten what it's like and what normal healthcare system is about. I feel like it's important that we pull back the veil on how this system got started so that you too can know the truth. 100 years ago, America was buzzing with healers, like homeopathic physicians, naturopaths, herbologists, body workers like chiropractic and osteopathic physicians. Patients had a choice. They had a choice to use allopathic doctors or natural healers, and the two professions had ongoing debates. Allopathic doctors referred to themselves as heroic and believed it was their job to aggressively drive disease from the body. They based their practices on what they considered scientific, but most people had a natural mistrust of this scientific medicine because their techniques involved things like bloodletting, tobacco enemas, and barbiturates for sleep. At the turn of the century, allopathic doctors' default medicine was something called the blue pill, which we know today contains 33% toxic mercury, and it was frequently prescribed for almost all conditions and things like tuberculosis, constipation, toothaches, parasitic infections, childbirth, you name it. Ironically, Rockefeller, like most people today, flatly refused medicine, and his own personal physician was a homeopathic physician. On the flip side were empiric healers, or holistic healers. Empiric means to treat based on observation and experience. They believe in stimulating the body's own healing capabilities. They use herbs, homeopathy, manual manipulation, vegetable products, diet, and other such natural treatments. They base their treatments on careful, recorded observations that are often passed through generations of wise humans. The balance of physicians, allopathic and holistic, remained pretty equal through most of American history, until enter John D. Rockefeller. His dark intentions of profit, cloaked in philanthropy, is what grew the medical system that we have today, along with the nonprofit industrial complex. Rockefeller, in 1892, hired a man named Simon Flexner as the director of his Institute of Medical Research. Simon influenced his brother Abraham Flexner to write a report to be presented to Congress under the auspices of the Carnegie Foundation. The point of this report was to mold the medical system in this country to favor their plan to sell snake oil. He used the Carnegie Foundation, a philanthropic organization, as a front, since he needed a layer of deniability between his direct interests and the new system of healthcare that he was rigging. It's important to note that Abraham Flexner was not a medical doctor, a scientist, a teacher, or a medical educator of any kind. In fact, he was a preacher, making him completely unauthorized to write such a report. In this report, his goal was to categorize what he believed was scientific and unscientific. And in 1910, the Flexner Report disseminated the falsehoods under the guise of science and ruthlessly slandered all, quote, unquote, unscientific methods of healing. These included homeopathy, nutrition, manipulation of the body by chiropractors and osteopaths, electromagnetic therapy, acupuncture, nutrition, detoxification, you name it. It was anything that competed with the allopathic drug model. No paradigm of healthcare should be dismissed simply because it competes with any other system. Each form of healthcare, each new discovery, each thing that we're working through must be based solely on its ability to get results. This is the basis of objective science, of observation, and of human advancements. But in response, Rockefeller, who knew a thing or two about monopolies, infamously quipped, "No, competition is sin," and he sought to monopolize medicine. Medicine, even today, is not really based on science, even though this is what they constantly tell us. Heart disease, the most studied of all scientific medical disciplines, According to the Journal of American Medical Association, only 11% of the drugs and procedures that we do for heart disease is actually based on science. Yet our country is spending over $100 billion on heart surgeries alone. Medicare is spending $46 billion on blood pressure medications and another $29 billion on cholesterol medications, despite the fact that there's very little valid scientific studies proving the long-term benefit. According to WebMD, the cost of cardiovascular disease in the United States is $444 billion. So if only 11% of $444 billion is based in hard science, maybe we should abandon the rest. If we subtracted this, that would leave us $396 billion in our collective pockets that we're wasting on unscientific medical treatments. And this is heart disease alone. There was even less scientific validity 100 years ago when fabricating the Flexner Report. The Flexner Report was nothing more than a smear campaign and pure propaganda. But holy moly, what a killer propaganda offensive. Its effectiveness was no less than a triumph for Rockefeller. You see, Rockefeller was not a popular name at the time. His reputation of cutthroat business tactics and penny-pinching methods did not favor him with the general public. This is why he had to use a front. The front happened to be the Carnegie Foundation. Through this philanthropic front of giving to this foundation, Rockefeller, with the help of Carnegie, donated $600 million in today's money, tax-free, to medical schools that met the criteria of the little-known but incredibly impactful Flexner Report. After the Flexner Report came out, the number of health schools in this country, it dropped from 189 to 31 almost overnight. And each of these 31 schools focused its health efforts only on giving drugs, doing procedures, and long hospital stays. Any university not using the methods condoned by the Flexner Report was censored, and many of them shut down. The remaining schools had to follow the new curriculum set in place, which stated that anything other than drugs and surgery was tantamount to quackery. In addition, the medical students of the day were taught not to associate with anyone that did not follow the allopathic practice of medicine. During this bleak and sad history in America, chiropractors, homeopathists, and many of the great healers were frequently jailed for practicing medicine without a license. For the next 20 years, the Rockefellers sought to begin, to start, or get controlling interest in almost all the major drug companies of the world. He then went on to stack the FDA with his own men, ensuring rubber stamp approval for all his pharmaceuticals. He controlled the legislative bodies that licenses schools, doctors, and hospitals, and he used his wealth to push through laws that eliminated any competition. This ensured that the pharmaceutical companies supplied the whole nation's medicine. This began the modern medical system we know today. Medicine, because of Rockefeller, was corporatized into an extremely well-oiled machine, making the machine profit Rockefeller and pharmaceuticals. And Rockefeller controlled most of these pharmaceutical companies. So let's examine the path we take when we choose Rockefeller medicine. When we get sick, we go to a doctor. We see the diplomas on their walls and we assume that they know what they're talking about. They continue to lead us down this path. They give us drugs, surgery, procedures, never telling us what the other option is. We continue along this zombie path. Hospitals and doctors direct all their patients down this path. It becomes crowded with people shambling along in poor health. The majority of us are well past the tipping point of ever regaining our full health when we realize that this path actually makes us sicker. The lucky few of us that have the opportunity to look around before our health completely fails us become completely horrified by the poor health results and the high casualty rate that medicine has. How long do we walk down the path in the wrong direction? How long do we continue in the wrong way? How long do we pursue the same cures for heart disease and cancer that have not worked for the last 50 years? When do we turn around? When do we choose the right path? Yet this incorrect path is continuously reinforced. The medical system steers almost all of us towards it. In an astounding political coup, the system is now expandizing into socialized form of medicine. We knew this system was broken 30 years ago. Why do we keep doubling down? Now with Obamacare, we all have even more access to drugs, surgery, and hospitalizations. Those who attempt to defy the system, those who say, I'm going to choose a different path, those who reject the pharmaceutical medications and say, I want real healing, we are in direct opposition to this form of medicine. As practitioners, we're attacked by the state boards. We're told that our methods are not medically necessary, and we're pushed out of the media. I know because I am a direct victim of their attacks. But I'm prepared to accept those retributions to try to promote the truth being that we can heal ourselves. I'm compelled to teach people the knowledge of healing that's been passed down from wonderful physicians throughout history. The problems, they're easy to point out. It's the solutions that are more difficult. And we must focus on providing safe and effective cures using nature and her wonderful tools.